Durable dads, brothers from other mothers, and sisters from different misters. Thanks for tuning in to yet another pulse pounding live broadcast from Durable Dads. Um, it's a wonderful to be here. We're going to call this one, I think, what we have garage talk and stuff like that, and kind of a campsite thing. A little bit of a flavor. Yes, absolutely, we're going to call it a garage talk. And just getting right into it, if you've been following along with my latest videos, the theme of this particular live stream is that we're operational again. Well, mostly. So Lou, the forerunner, decided to financially suplex me for a little while there. So adventures have been a bit more of the local operator style than grand expedition lately. That's for a couple of reasons. First, that Lou wasn't able to be taken really all that far. It was getting pretty sketchy to drive. And then, now that it's been fixed, that was my last two videos, because that was quite the aggressive financial endeavor. So once that's pretty much done, is kind of kept me a little closer to home for the next little while I financially recover from that one. Another thing I wanted to address is that my drop schedule, I've been pretty slavish about dropping every Thursday. And I did warn you last live stream that might change a bit as I adjusted to a few things, and that has indeed come to pass. It's been different days, a Friday, a Saturday. I'm going to try and get back on track here. I do have the next episode loaded, so it's not going to be anything to do with Lou. Lou's going to go back to being a background character for a while. Hopefully the old girl takes it easy on me. I've been awfully nice to her. So there we go. Let's hop into what we're doing. I don't know how many people are here. There might be nobody currently. So, all right, that's fine. I will continue along anyway, and you guys can catch up later. So, to date, the alignment is done. So the steering is fixed. There's not a lot of horrifying screeching noises. She tracks nice and straight, and it's nice to be, driving nice again. So between repairs and life stuff, and you know what, I can't lie, the absolutely criminal, gas prices. I don't know how much it is where you're at, but we're sitting at $1.99 a liter, so almost $2 a liter, essentially. I don't think I've ever seen it that high, even during COVID and during lockdowns. So this is another thing is that my wallet's pretty hurting. So my adventures are limited for the next little while. I was really looking forward to really hitting the adventure trail pretty hard. So, but that didn't happen. So the fare will be a little bit more of the budget review kind of stuff, as I can afford it. Some local adventures as I can range out a little bit farther. So I'm hopefully later this summer hoping to do a pretty decent road trip and go to a pretty nice location. But that's still under works. A few other kind of I guess housekeeping stuff is, you'll notice I'm wearing the Woobin hat. Thanks again for that, Woobin. But the new hat, the one I got made, which is essentially just, it's a patch, right? So it came out pretty nice. I'm very happy with it. The only thing is if you'll notice, it has a conflict with the green screen behind me and my background. So yeah, that would get pretty distracting pretty fast, but there they are. I've had a few inquiries about the patches, actually, this guy right here. So about the hats are pretty easy to get. You can order your own. The nice thing about doing patches is that you can stick this on your backpack too, or any kind of tack gear you've got. You name it. This is just, it looks good on a hat, but it doesn't have to go on a hat. So I did have an inquiry about how much it would cost. So the thing is every time you run it, whether that's 1 or 100, there's going to be a setup fee that happens every time. And my cost is around 15, 16 bucks. So I'm kind of waiting until I have enough people to say, yeah, I want one, to do a run of about 10. And that way the $12 can be kind of like massaged in. And I'm trying to hit around the 17, 18 bucks per patch kind of threshold. That would be nice. So if anybody's interested, because they're super light, they can be whipped in an envelope and sent pretty much anywhere for dirt cheap. So hit me up if you want one. I'm working on it. Another thing that I'm working on is I was planning on doing an episode, because one thing I've kind of noticed is bushcraft pants. I've been wanting a pair for quite a while. So I do have my combat pants and some camo pants that work pretty good, but they're not really super stretchy, and they have their issues too. They're a little heavy. So I had a little bit of lust. Now I tend to give a couple of my gearhead friends a lot of grief about wanting to go for high-end gear. I'm like, nah. And you guys know who you are. So, but I'll take that back, because inside I'm a gearhead for sure. And you don't necessarily need to have expensive gear, but when it comes to fit and stuff that really matters and something that works really well, it sometimes pays to spend the bucks. So I was searching around, because there seems to be kind of a gap between being able to find like a work pant or a hiking pant, and any kind, or you've got a tactical pant. And for some reason, the whole idea of like having a pant that addresses all of those things, like a hybrid pant, it seems to be really tough to do. Either it's not there, or something is there, only it's really expensive. So I did my research, and there is a brand called Helicon Tex. It's a European brand, and they make a pretty good looking piece of apparel, pants that I would be interested in purchasing. Remember, like, if you have a good pair of bushcraft pants that you can lightly work in, they're going to be, obviously you're not going to go and wrench and paint in them or anything like that, but you could do yard work in them, and you're not going to be too precious. And that runs about 150 bucks after you order it in and pay exorbitant European shipping fees. So I was looking at that, and I have no idea how they fit. So that would be kind of a shot in the dark experiment. And I was kind of doing that, but my daughter's graduating here in a couple of weeks, and I've got a whole bunch of other things coming, and I'm just still kind of getting over, Lou kind of, donkey punching me financially right in the wallet. So I'm getting over that. So I elected not to do it. But you know what? On a whim, I decided to go to True Outdoors, local shop. And I ran into the Fall Ravens, and I looked at them, and I'm like, damn. So I went, and I made the mistake of trying them on. And they passed every test. They're super comfortable. They got the squat test, the whole deal. They looked really skookum, and they fit like a dream. And I was like, oh my God. But they're like, after tax, $300, essentially. $300. And you know what? I couldn't eat $300. That would be like, even on my credit card, things were looking not so awesome. Because I really wanted to do an episode talking about this whole gap in terms of like practical hybrid stuff for dads that like to be outdoors, but can still, work in the yard, or can take them to work, and or like go out and run into town from camping and pick up your stuff and not look like a total dork, right? So you're not looking pretentious. I guess Fjällräven is pretty pretentious all by itself. But yeah, so I decided I'd launch a Fjällräven campaign, which I posted in the community. So essentially how it goes, and this is going to be a little recurring bit. So if I either hit 1K subs, or I raise enough money through Buy Me a Coffee to buy the pants get bought. So one way that doesn't matter, like you reach those goals, I'm going to do them, and I'll do a pretty awesome review of them. However, so since I've actually had a Buy Me a Coffee for a few months now, that has raised me exactly $0.00. And I'm at 315 subs currently. I'd be really interested in seeing if I get these pants this year. It might be that I'm going to have to go out and shell out for themselves, because I think Fjällräven doesn't think that I'm an influencer quite enough to be able to send me a pair. But if there's anybody miraculously from Fjällräven that's actually watching this, feel free, right? I love it. I'll send you my pant size. So you can email me at Rogue2 Studios, Mike at rogue2studios.com. So there's my plea. But I thought I'd turn it into something kind of light and fun, because my expectations aren't super huge. It would just be lovely to have them, and that would be a little bit of influencer flex. It would make me kind of go back on my whole budget gear thing. But honestly, when it comes to apparel anyway, there isn't something that fits the bill that's not going to cost you a mint, that actually combines kind of the toughness of a work pant, but isn't a work pant, but isn't flimsy, like a hiking pant that you can't kneel on rocks or anything like that. So a good skookum all around pant seems to be tough to find. Anyways, again, I'm electing to stabilize, so before that happens, or the great generosity of the YouTube viewership or the algorithm or whatever can come to my rescue. So tonight's stream is low pressure, and with the amount of people not here, that's okay. So I will kind of note that a little shout out to Rado at Cerizos here in town, who's it's a restaurant, whose angling skills is so legendary that he catches a bounty of fish, and was able to shoot me a couple of a beautiful rainbow trout, which is what I made it for dinner. So I'm really kind of feeling pretty good about life. So, and this makes me really thinking, not that I ever want to do a fishing channel, but there might be a fishing video, because you know what, I want to catch some of those for myself, legit. So yeah, all right. Okay, I got myself my notes, so I'm just reading through. So yeah, I think we're gonna go back to the summer direction shift. I did the spring reset, but you know what? I got myself, because of Lou and everything happening, I got myself a little bit behind. So I thought, you know what? Just give a little heads up, a little breathing room for some content, right? Catch me up a little bit, because things have been flexing and lots going on. So this live stream is a little bit of a break, a little check-in to let you guys know what's happening. So the summer direction shift. So as I was saying earlier, is that I was pretty slavish to, dropping every Thursday. And I had a little bit of a thing about that. And I assumed that, the channel would fall apart and I'd get like algorithmic punishment of some sort if I didn't miss, like if I missed my day, which is apparently not the case at all. So it's going to be weekly-ish. I'm going to make sure to have some pretty steady and consistent content. However, I'm making Durable Dads kind of more part of my life and my adventures for the summer, rather than being my taskmaster, right? I'll enjoy it. You guys will probably enjoy it along with me too, if I'm not always stressed about getting content out. And yeah, I did, again, warn you that this might happen. And I wanted to throw that one out there because it did. It did happen, and it was really likely. So, again, the last couple videos, there was a little shout out to Don at Big Don Super Pawn. I'm going to be mining that place for gear. It is a great place to get gear. I'm kind of lucky that way. And a lot of outdoors people tend to have their stuff through, because he is an avid outdoorsman, so he knows his stuff. He knows what to look for, and he knows what things are worth, right? So, and just a little bit of a warning, there might be, I'm kind of setting something up so that there might be a little more of a consignment thing going on there, and I'll keep you posted on how there's going to be a concentration on outdoor gear and just kind of being a spot to get outdoor gear, because Kamloops doesn't have anything like a real outfitter, right? You've got True Outdoors, which is, more hiking, skiing, kayaking, snowshoeing, yada yada, okay? And that's got some pretty swanky gear. You've got Canadian Tire. You don't really have anything in between. There isn't a Kambalas or anything like that. So maybe there's room to have a good place for used outdoor gear, right? So anyways, I'm going to try and hit Thursdays for the summer, but realistically, weekly-ish is probably what you're going to look at. So that's fine. So I'm going to be active and consistent. It's just things are going to be a little bit more organic on this end, while there's work and life and recovery and, all adventures rebalance. So that's healthier for sure. So I'm going to concentrate a little bit, definitely go into the practical dad outdoors, some DIY, camping builds that you can do with your kids, testing out gear, and what would really work for taking your kids with you. What's practical and important to have your guys' go-tos in your kit that doesn't cost you a fortune, and there's stuff that you can have that you're not going to use and just get stored. So I really want to concentrate on the stuff you're going to need, even if it's just for a day trip, a quick road trip, a weekend out, or a longer adventure style week camping. I want to get the kit down to the bare essentials that you're going to need. And that's really worth it. So I'll try and give that to you in the no nonsense kind of way. Again, a big thanks to Hotcore for sending me the Vapor 3 tarp. You're going to be seeing more of that. It's definitely a beauty. It's designed for through hiking and, as being a shelter build. So it's super light and it's waterproof. So I'm going to use that quite a bit. Obviously there's going to be more tarps for bigger and better and more complex kind of camping builds. But I'm going to be concentrating on, tent plus kitchen area plus how to utilize, your vehicle as part of this camping, so you can create a nice sheltered spot, lots of space. I mean, yes, it's important to look at the stars and enjoy your fire, but also at the same time, it's nice to have coverage too. And yeah, coming down the pike when, things aren't so busy is going to be some collab stuff going down, probably with Jeremy from Fireworks, about some simple builds, some 3-pole shelters, to something a little bit more complex, but all of it's going to be kept in a way that's like not so extreme minimalist, hardcore bushcraft. Something you could do with your kids, or something you can whip together that's simple and sturdy and gonna work, because you don't necessarily have the time to go out there and be, solo minimalist, ultralight anything, especially if you have kids. You know the drill. I mean, that just doesn't happen unless you're out on your own or with buddies that already know the drill, right? So field utility is pretty much my go-to lane here for the summer. So camp systems, I'm definitely going to be like pawn shop finds. I've got some good ones. I've got a nice mess kit that I picked up on the pawn shop. So cheaper gear tests. I might borrow some gear too, right? So also there's probably going to be something coming up, probably on knives and axes, somewhere around there, with Marshall from Canadian Mountain Men. Again, everybody's busy or sick and tired, or busy and sick and tired. Any number of things. It's been a crazy spring. So, okay, and we're again, the concentration is going to be, what do you actually need content? So this is getting honing in on the Dadventure kit. So I've got a bunch of stuff to add into it and a few things to take out. So watch for one of those episodes coming up. So I think that'd be Dadventure Kit 2nd season or number 3 or something like that. So I'm just not going to try and force giant productions every week that are super complex. So I'll give you a little heads up on what I have kind of cooking. So there's going to be a cheap marketplace kind of like knife batoning test, right? So we're going to bust out the BioLite again, start making some coffee. We're going to do a little more camp system bits. I don't know, there's no fire ban, and yes, there has been some rain, but we had a pretty warm May, and it was pretty dry there for a while. So I'm gonna maybe take it easy or be very contained on my fires this year. So there's gonna be more camp stove, maybe whipping out a folding stove. Again, that's where batoning's gonna come in nice and handy. More on that later. And the camp stove, maybe a jet boil from here and there. So the stuff that's gonna work. But you know what? You have to remember that if it's not you out alone suffering or just a couple of people. It's you and family gonna be most of the time. So not necessarily is a jet boil gonna be your best buddy. A camp stove is, because it's volume, right? So it's gonna be maybe some pawn shop bushcraft episodes. Again, Dawn's gonna lend some gear, Jeremy's gonna lend some gear, and maybe a more emphasis on like testing stuff before buying stuff, because if you test it and you love it and you're like, oh my god, I need to have one of these, for sure. And a good bush saw, like a folding bush saw, is on my list of stuff. Yeah, I have a pretty decent list of stuff that I'd love to get, but unfortunately Lou got hungry. And you know what I mean, round one was some simple stuff, like I wasn't too up for a timing job, but the cam seals were leaking. It was leaking all over the place, and I need to deal with that. So I bought myself another couple $100,000 on Lou, except that the front end went, and that was the one that kind of broke the old man's back. So we're going again. We're going to go on Lend, and then I'm going to be testing stuff. And if I gotta have it, then I'll go out and get it, and I will let you know how it's doing. So gear tests before you buy. So and you know what? I'm not sponsored. You know, like even with Hot Core and Six Seasons and Jeremy's stuff, like Woobin as well. Yeah, I've been sent some pretty great items, and I love them. So, but the thing is, I'm always come through like, is this going to be handy? Am I going to be using this? And is it going to stand up? So yeah, always. Yeah, I'm not going to be giving you any specs. I'll be giving you the lowdown on whether it's worth it, and then why it's worth it. So anyways, I've kind of gone over Operation Swedish Dad Pants. So yeah, the Fall Ravens pretty swanky. It's like elitist Swedish Dad Pants. And you know what? Final Form, operator trousers. Another kind of name I had here is the last bush pants I'll ever need. Probably. I mean, these things are pretty durable, and I'd be having to try really hard to wreck them, and I'm not going to be trying. But you know what? At the same time, I will tell you how they maybe match up to a good Carhartt or a Dakota, like a work pant. The thing is, again, those things are heavy. They're tough as hell, but they're heavy and they're hot. And if you're hiking around or going fishing or building fires or doing everything you need to do through in a day, so that is maybe work pants, and they don't dry very fast either too. And again, hiking pants, quick dry, light, comfortable. You're not going to sweat your kahunas off, but not necessarily tough, right? And get one ember and there, poof, got a hole, right? Or you sit too close to the fire, there it is. So and a lot of guys, and I've talked to guys about this, and they're like, Costco pants, man. And that makes sense, right? Because we're forced, because we don't have a mid kind of a tier pant, some between cheap or Wrangler ATG is actually pretty good stuff, and that the price point isn't bad. You can get a lot of these for one pair of Fall Raven. I get that. Are they going to have the lifetime of like 10 pairs of Costco pants? Whether that's BC clothing or the Urban Star jeans or whatever, that's what it's your choice, right? And I lament that there is no real middle ground. Again, the Wrangler ATG, but then again, here's me admitting to the fact that like sometimes I'm an elitist bastard and I like what I like, right? So, but you got to justify the money somehow. And yeah, if I can, hustle up a 1K subs, you're gonna see me eat those pants, or you guys like and have to pony up the bucks. So, or you guys can send it. By the way, it's buymeacoffee.com/durabledads. Just throwing that out there. So if you want to help me get that piece of content out there, feel free. So, but really, I couldn't justify it. Stabilization first, a couple of like some important critical gear, like the basics, to flush out the kit, and some getting out for some adventures, catching some fish, and checking out some new lakes and new areas. And gear that's just going to work for you. That's where I'm going. So, yeah, we're going to leave by my Scandinavian forest trousers for now. We went over the Durable Dads patches, These guys here, doesn't have to go on a tactical hat, can go on anything you want. Again, that one's for me because I want to, you know, pimp my channel. But yeah, they're up for grabs. But again, that would have to be, you know, an order of 10 minimum before I'm going to roll in. So let me know, get a hold of me personally, or, you know, send me an email, or, you know, leave me a comment if you're interested in a patch. Yeah, you know what? So if people are interested, like, again, I think YouTube does it, and so does Buy Me a Coffee. They offer, you know, a little bit of a storefront so you can get merch too. So maybe if I could do some grassroots community merch, as long as it's not exorbitantly expensive for you guys, I will be happy to do that and get that out there. Just, you know, kind of some fun stuff, nothing crazy. So yeah, I think that concludes it. It's 7:01. I started at 6. So it's time to kind of wrap this up. Yes, after this live stream, we're going to be back to regular scheduled programming. I'm happy to say that's going to resume shortly. It's been quite a ride and a very interesting start to the spring. But you know what? That's not going to stop. You know, durable dads, we're durable. We figure it out because we're dads. We figure it out for our family, and we figure out adventure. It's what we do. Anyways, lovely to catch up with you guys. I will talk to you again soon. I'm going to try and do one of these once a month. All right, I'll catch you sometime in June. Peace out, Scout.